Hi, I'm Anthony Originello, CEO of the Chartered Professionals in Human Resources for BC and Yukon. We represent more than 8,000 members, and as the organization dedicated to advancing the HR profession through education, advocacy, awareness, professional development, as well as our recognized and impactful CPHR designation, we are proud to be a sponsor of this show. We have been the voice of the HR profession since 1942. Learn more about us at cphrbc.ca.
In this episode of Careers That Matter, I'm joined by Downtown Van's CEO, Jane Talbot. Jane, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
What is the job of being CEO of Downtown Van? Like, what do you do?
It's such a good question. A little bit of everything. You have to be very engaged at the community level. There's so much advocacy work that we do with and on behalf of our membership, government relations, but there's also really fun stuff like putting on events and sponsoring events and anything that promotes economic development in our 90 blocks of downtown Vancouver. We do extensive work around community safety, and we come to work every day to do our very best to make sure that people love their city and that visitors come here and they love this city.
So that's what the organization does.
But what do you do?
Yeah, on a daily basis. What does your day look like?
Okay, on a day-to-day basis. Well, we have a team of about 42 people.
Wow.
Yeah, it's big. I start every day by reading the headlines and finding out what's happening in our city. I connect regularly with government officials, local officials. I have meetings with members to talk about what they need, how we can help. It's really about being out there and being available to our membership and to our community. So many meetings. But we run a really tight meeting, so we don't have them for the sake of having them, but we have to have them because our work involves collaboration and partnership, and it's just so much easier to tackle big issues when we're all in the same room talking about them.
You're also the public face of the organization.
I
so
am.
You have to respond to media calls and so on.
Yes. I'll be very honest with you, it's the piece of my job that I am least comfortable with. But yeah, it's a big part of what we do. And building those relationships and having these kinds of conversations are really important. Yes, I temporarily forgot about my media work.
But you're also an advocate as well. So you're, once again, the face of the organization, talking to different levels of government.
Absolutely. Last year, I had 79 meetings, probably 80, probably actually more. This was just me going through my calendar and counting them out. 79 meetings with every level of government, including, I include VPD in that, to talk about the issues and needs of downtown Vancouver. So yeah, we're out there, I'm out there. And I love it. Well,
that's the outward-facing part of your job. You've got an inward-facing part too, because you are in charge.
I am.
So you say you have 42 people. So how do you divide or separate out who reports to you and?
Yeah. So it's made a little bit easier because prior to being the CEO, I was the COO, and I managed all of the behind-the-scenes work and operations of the organization. So I know that piece of this job as well as I now know the CEO position. I have a HR certification in the United States and Canada, so I'm constantly staying up on human resources and best practices, but the answer is I have an incredible team. I have a really strong director of operations who oversees a couple of managers. I have a really strong director of strategy and development who oversees a couple of managers, and we work very closely together. So I can't possibly do all of that on my own. I rely on my team, and I have to say all of them, every single person that works for our organization, I consider exceptional.
Well, let's go back to the start of your career. Mm-hmm. You graduated from high school.
I graduated from Catholic High School in Elmira, New York.
And what did you decide that you were going to do?
I had, I was not one of those people who had a life plan. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. It took me 6 years to get through my undergraduate degree because I kept changing majors. And in the end, I got a degree in English and a minor in secondary education. My dad was a school teacher, so I figured, I could be a school teacher. I could not be a school teacher. It turns out I really didn't like it at all, at all. So then I went back and I did the first year of my master's in elementary education, and I liked that even less. So at that point, I realized that teaching was not for me. And at that time, my partner and I moved to Canada. And I had some time to think about, what do I really want to do? I didn't have a work visa, so everything that I did through volunteering. And there's a freedom that comes with that. It really does allow you to try out different things. And I realized that I absolutely love community work. And yeah, I love it. And I don't think I'll ever do anything else.
So you had to go through the process, though, of getting a work permit.
I had to go through that process. And the day I got it, the YMCA offered me a full-time position because I basically had just been volunteering there for 3 years and pretty much was a staff person anyway, but just wasn't being paid.
That was here?
That was here.
Janet Austin?
That was my, no, who was the CEO? It was the YMCA. Bill Stewart was the CEO at that time. Yeah, and then I led the largest health and wellness program in the city of Vancouver at that time, and I absolutely loved it. And then I went...
So how long were you there?
All in? Do you mean from like volunteering?
And your work, yeah.
Probably, oh gosh, I'd have to really think about it, but I want to say about 5 years in total.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was a run leader with their marathon clinic, and I would, the joy of helping people realize their goal of fitness or running a marathon just fueled me. I absolutely loved it. I loved helping people be what they perceive to be the best version of themselves. I loved it. Yeah.
Then where'd you go?
Then I went to BC Persons with AIDS Society, and it was a passion of mine. I think it was probably because I just grew up when HIV and AIDS was emerging, and there was something about it that from a very early age, I just cared deeply about it. And a maternity leave position opened up there to run their treatment information and advocacy program. I applied for it, and I got it. I had to do like a 7-minute PowerPoint on highly active antiretroviral treatment therapy and whether to do it or not to do it. And it was fascinating and such incredible work. I loved it there.
How long were you with them?
I want to say about 3 years. Yeah, about 3 years. And then I stepped out for a year and did my master's degree in Europe in international relations, which here in Vancouver I may as well have gotten a degree in basket weaving. I probably would have had more employment opportunities in that. But I did it because I was fascinated by the topic, and I loved learning about political science and government relations and anything that comes along with international relations. And I did it in Europe. I studied there through an American university, and we moved campuses every 2 months.
Wow.
So I got to, I got to experience Europe and do my master's at the same time. And when I left Vancouver, the job market was strong. I really didn't think twice about stepping out and just going away for a year and doing my master's degree.
And what was it like when you came back?
Well, it was 2008, right? And it was a very different environment. And from there, I went to the Heart and Stroke Foundation. And I was a regional manager there for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then my passion my move that I had to do in my life, I had to work on behalf of animals. So I took a step out of that career and stepped into the BC SPCA.
Wow.
And I was there for 7 years. I managed the Burnaby shelter and then the Vancouver shelter, and then moved into the human resources team, and then moved into the operations team. And eventually, by the time I left, I was the director of regional operations and assisting in overseeing the 37 branches throughout the province of BC.
Uh-huh.
But I'll tell you, there is a price tag on passion, and I learned that lesson there.
Yes, there is a price tag.
There is, yeah.
Yeah. Did that lead you to the Downtown Vancouver Business Improvement Association?
It did.
Yeah.
So in the final year of the SPCA, it was just a tough year in general in animal welfare. There were a lot of seizures and high volume seizures. Were like 30, 40, 50 animals in distress would come into your shelter, and it was one after the other, and that was tough. That was really tough. And I just thought, I don't think I can do this anymore. I need to take a break. And it was phenomenal work. It was great work. I would never, ever, ever, if I had to go back in time, I would never not spend 7 years working at the SPCA, but I would do it differently. And I would do it differently in that I wouldn't need to take time off because I had, maybe just not taken the care of myself that I really needed to take.
Mm-hmm.
So I planned to take about a year off, and just we had a cabin at the time down in Washington State, and I thought I'll just spend time at the cabin and hang out with my dog. And but I'm not really wired for a lot of downtime. And I went back to the SPCA in a contract, and then a position opened up at Downtown Van. And I had to look it up. I had to be like, what is the Downtown Vancouver Business Improvement Association? What do they do? And I went to their website, and I thought, this is incredible. This is city building. This is supporting your downtown. This is making Vancouver a place where people just want to be and they feel comfortable being here. And I thought, I could do that. And it was a 1-year mat leave again. And 7.5 years later, here I am.
As CEO?
As CEO, yeah. I stepped in as a director of operations for a year.
So what would be interesting, especially for a young person who's listening to you, you didn't seem to worry that you were not going to be able to find another opportunity if you said, I've got a passion project, or I've got something else that I want to learn. What gave you that sense of confidence that you would find your place?
I have always had what I would call an internal voice that guides me, and in each of my moves, I knew it was the right thing for me to do. There were people that said, "Don't take a step back in your career. Why on earth would you do that? Why would you go from working at Heart and Stroke to managing an animal shelter?" But I knew that it was the right thing for me to do, and that's really the answer to all of these moves. It made sense to me, and I answer, of course, to my friends and my family, but I answer to myself primarily, and I need to listen to myself. And I have an incredibly supportive husband.
Yeah, but as you say that, I remember reading this fabulous book by Carl Rogers, who was a highly regarded psychologist in the United States, and he wrote this book called On Becoming a Person, and he talked about lessons in his own life. And he said, I have learned to listen to like the all of me, the organism, the feelings that I have over what I think.
Yeah.
Yes, I have the thoughts, they get put in there, they maybe move me in a certain direction, but I make my decisions ultimately on how do I feel. And it's about trusting your instincts.
It is.
Yeah.
And I've done it my whole life. Now, I don't do it in my professional career, like day to day. Like, I don't make a decision for Downtown Van because I feel it's the right thing to do.
No, you have to have a real reason to do it.
Yeah, and there's data, and there's a board of directors, and there's staff. Like, there are so many factors that go into making those decisions. But when it comes to my career and how I progress through this life, in the end, the final say is mine, and I listen to how I feel. And I've always known that I would be okay. I've always known that, and I will be okay. I've never been out there trying to make a ton of money. I've never been out there trying to be the face of an organization. In fact, I've hid from it. But things come, like, you know, things come at us, and it depends how we're motivated, and I'm motivated to serve. And here we are.
What a wonderful note to wrap up on. Thank you.
You're welcome.